You're about to watch a recorded session from the Brand Podcast Summit. For more recordings or information on the podcasting events we have coming up very soon, go to brandpodcastsummit.com.
The Brand Podcast Summit.
It's now time to introduce our next speaker, who is going to cover AI. It's something that's come up a few times in the sessions today, and certainly it's one of the most popular topics we saw as we put this program together. A lot of people are wondering, great, ChatGPT is cool and everything, but like, what do I actually do with this tech? How do I integrate into my workflow? I don't know if anyone has tried just typing into ChatGPT, hey, I want to make a podcast about, the double glazing industry. How am I gonna do that? And the ideas that it spits out are kind of interesting and kind of helpful, but also I've found it hard to really make use of the information that I get out of those platforms. So our guest next, Yuan Pavey, is going to walk us through his actual workflow for his actual podcast. So who is Yuan, you're wondering? Well, I have the answer for you. He is the CMO of Nude. And so he is a marketer doing awesome work on his day-to-day job. But he is also the host of In Growth We Trust, which is a marketing podcast, which is excellent and you should go and subscribe to and listen to. And that is not his full-time job. He's very busy as it is. So he runs this podcast on the side with a friend of his. And the process of creating this podcast is heavily utilizing AI. And so I wanted to bring Yuan on to talk us through that workflow so that you can learn how to integrate AI into your team's workflow. It might be that you pick up one or two tips from this. It might be that you decide you want to do the entire workflow that Yuan's going to outline here. I think there's something in this for everybody. So without further ado, I think those are all the things I have to say. So Yuan, hello. Thanks for being here.
Hi. Thank you for inviting me.
Over to you, mate. I'm gonna get out of your way and let you do your thing. So thank you.
Cheers, Harry. Thank you. All right. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. I'm gonna present to you how things are working in a background of In Growth We Trust. Give you a little bit of workflow, AI powered or enhanced kind of idea, and hopefully some of you will get some value. So let me just start sharing my screen. Go AI in podcasting, tools and tactics. All right, let's crack on. So as Ari just mentioned, this is me on the left, and this is my friend Jake Mayo. He is a head of growth full-time at an agency in the UK and in London. I'm the CMO at Nude, which is a fintech, even though the name doesn't give it. Fintech for first-time buyers in the UK, and I'm based in London as well. And we both have kids. We're very busy. I've got 2 kids, 2 young kids, and he's got 3. So just to put into the context that on top of having also day jobs, we also have kids and things to take care of. So the idea of us taking on the challenge of starting a podcast last year was based on a few things. We really like marketing. We've been doing that together in about 10 years, each of us. We actually started working together 10 years ago, and then our paths kind of separated, but we stayed friends. We started doing Facebook ads 10 years ago, and a bit more than 10 years ago, actually, in a Facebook ads agency. That's how we met. And last year, we decided that we wanted to put a little podcast together, talking about marketing, growth, talking to founders, growth marketers, anyone who would want to have a chat with us on the topics of growth and growth marketing. But the premise of doing that was that we needed to fit it within our schedule, and that can't take us too long. So what I'll present to you in these slides is the kind of state of play where we are now in terms of workflow and how and then we like piece all these things together, this jigsaw to make it work around our life. So yeah, we're busy. That was the point. We started in Growth Through Trust in June 2023, and yes, it's just us two, plus some pretty cool tool that allowed us to streamline a lot of what's happening in the background. And this is the podcast. So in Growth Through Trust, like I said, the artwork is made by me. I guess that's one thing that you don't know, you should know. Canva is really good. Even the free option is really good to do stuff. So we made the artwork using that. And yeah, that was one of the first things that we worked on, the kind of like look and feel. The name, having a little bit of a keyword in there with growth. We worked a bit on the keyword on the title as well, and Growth Through Trust, and we plug marketing, startup, and growth within that too, for podcast SEO purposes. But that was kind of the beginning. For context, this is where we are now in terms of downloads over the last 7-8 months. We just passed 15,000 downloads, which is great. I think within our first 12 months, we'll probably beat 20,000 pretty easily. Hopefully more. But yeah, it's been a pretty fast growth. We've done also a few things on that, but there were some other sessions on growth. If you want to ask me some, you can as well. But that's where we are. As of last week, I know it changes a lot, but it was nice to see in the UK. Oftentimes we rank in the top 20, top 10 marketing podcasts. Like last week we were number 2, which is pretty insane. Thinking that we just started a few months ago. And to add a bit more stats to this, in the last 30 days, we've got 73 countries listening to the pod, and it's about 100 listens on a daily basis. And yes, it's wild. It's really there's something to podcasting that is really nice. First of all, because it's long form, people listen to it, in a kind of intense way compared to like a TikTok and like short form type of content. So to have like give or take 100 people around the world listening to it is pretty crazy. So to go back to the topic of this session, yes, we use AI in some parts of us putting together the podcast. It's not powered by AI, because not everything is AI, but it's enhanced. It does make our life a lot easier, and it frees up some time, basically, for Jake and I to work on the content more, who we're going to talk to, the questions we're going to ask, things like that. And everything that we can automate, whether it's AI or not, we do it. How do we do it? That's where we get to the flow. All right. Oops. There you go. So to begin with, in terms of the content, I should have said as well, it's an interview-based podcast. So we made this decision, like many other podcasts, to do that, because that means we can lean into someone else's story a little bit more than just ours on a weekly basis. It makes it a lot easier. Also, it makes it interesting for us to talk to other people in the field, in marketing, to see where they are, take the pulse, and in like things that they do. That's a good way to get started, instead of having to you yourself come up with content on a weekly basis if you're doing it weekly. And how do we fill the pipe? So the way we've done it so far is by using our network. I'm lucky enough to have enough connections on LinkedIn to begin with. So we definitely started with that. You can go to, your ex-colleagues, ex-boss, whoever you know that is in the field of what you want to talk about. You just reach out to them manually. I don't remember more than 2 people in 8 months. I don't think there's more than 2 people who actually said no to coming onto the pod. And they were for very specific reasons. Either they were busy with other things, or they thought that maybe it was not, for them, or they're not really used to doing podcasts. Like there was these recurring kind of 2 or 3 reasons. Everyone else is very happy to talk about themselves and what they've done in their career, in their field. So definitely feel free to reach out to that's a good way to start getting content out there. We also make sure that we talk about things that we care about. So in our case, it's easy. We picked a marketing podcast. We're both in marketing, so it's logic. We like to talk about that stuff. It makes it very natural to do that. We also look at what's popping in the industry. So there's a few resources that I use, whether it's newsletter, some websites that I pull ideas from. I make notes on my phone as I go through my week, and I always have 2 or 3 ideas on there that we can just pick from to either have an angle with a guest that we know would be suitable to explore, or to add to a story with a guest and have that discussion with them. So that means we get the benefit of having a guest as well as having some timely content when the episode comes out. And yes, you do have to keep it interesting for yourself if you want to do it in the long run. And I'm guessing some of you would know that most podcasts do not last more than 10 episodes. Or, I don't know exactly the statistic, but it's pretty low. So to do it consistently for a long period of time, you do have to talk about something that you enjoy talking about. So I guess that's more on the content sourcing kind of phase, solving where we're going to pick content from. Of course, it's interview plus some timely topics. One thing that we didn't do for a while, at least for the first five months of the podcast, that took a lot of time for us, that is not AI powered, but it's still very useful to do, is we started implementing a Calendly link to send to people we want to get on the pod. Before that, it was really manual. So sometimes coming into from a week to another, I was literally 2 days, 3 days before recording, I was still messaging a few people on LinkedIn or going back and forth in emails. And you don't want to do that. That's it's stressful. You don't know your pipeline in advance and who's going to come on. And we did that for a while, and it was still growing. It was still fine, but it was taking a lot of my time. And we just didn't think of doing that for a while because we were focused on other things. But as soon as we created this Calendly, and that meant that we could send that link to many potential guests at once and have our pipeline booked in advance. So now if you compare where we are now compared to a few months ago, now we do have episodes recording booked a month and a half in advance. We know we're going to record 2 or 3, depending on the week, ahead of time. So that means as well we're going to have a lot of episodes in the bank that we could sit on in case of emergencies and things like that. That is a big plus in our flow. Now let's move on to production and recording. So, gonna tell you a little bit about the other tools that we use. So we decided to go for Riverside for the recording. The one thing that we really like about it, and some of the things I'm going to say maybe is going to sound like very like detailed, little details, but for us a big thing. On Riverside, the guest coming into the recording actually is waiting in the lobby, and some other tools that we tried do not do that. The guest comes straight into us talking, and that can be a bit disruptive. Like that means we might be in the middle of a story or we're explaining something, and could be a bit disruptive or make it harder in the editing phase. So we stick to Riverside because of that, and also it's a good tool. But we have the person coming into the lobby. We know they're there. We can finish whatever we're talking about, and then we bring them on, and then it feels very natural. Other than that, we'll just use a mic, an iPhone, and AirPods. That's it. And for those who don't know, you can, if you're using an iPhone and a MacBook, you can use your iPhone as the camera instead of your MacBook. It's a much better camera. And yeah, it will look better if you're using video, obviously, which we do because we're using Spotify. But I'll go to that in a second. One thing that we also do that helps us a lot for the next phase is that as soon as we finish an episode and the guest leaves, we take the next 2 to 5 minutes to record the intro off the cuff because the discussion is fresh. We know what we liked, what was funny, what was interesting. We can mention that straight away. And that means then when we do the edit, we can take that part and put it as the intro right at the start of the episode. We started to do that like very recently as well. Like that's a recent change. Before that, we had like some sort of intro, like jingle type thing straight away, and we didn't think that it was maybe the best thing to do for retention. The best thing would probably to go for this is what we're going to talk about. This is why it's great, and we're testing that at the moment. So that is for the kind of recording and production of it. Then we move on to the next phase, the editing and post-production. So we use Descript, which some of you might know. I actually used Descript a few years ago when I started another podcast 3 years ago, which I actually stopped after 10 episodes. So I was part of the statistic. It's a great tool that does have some AI capabilities, which are great. We get the file into Descript, which allows us to manipulate the video as we please and move parts like you're editing a Word document, basically, a Google Doc, whatever you use, and you get the analogy. And it's also a great tool for clips. If you upload a video in there, it's a great way to get like segments that you then gonna potentially you could use for social media, things like that. So that's why we do a lot of the magic in the editing section. I think I put a screenshot in there of like things that you can do, but like removing filler words, shorten the word gaps. We use some of that stuff. Definitely search in script. There's like an Ask AI as well to like maybe more advanced research thing. The one thing that we don't use that is potentially could be good, but with the video it doesn't really work, is that you can replace words, or you can make up words in the transcript and record your voice. So the AI makes the word that's missing or replaces the word that's missing or whole sentence with your voice, which is kind of scary, but pretty cool at the same time if you ever need it.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I really want to let you know that if you're enjoying this content, you're going to love what we have coming up very soon. Another brand podcasting event that goes even deeper into what we're discussing in this session. So for more information on that, please go to brandpodcastsummit.com. And if you're watching this session and you're finding yourself thinking, this is all great, but like, how am I going to get this started this week? You know, I need some help with my brand's podcast. We'd love to have a chat about what you're working on. You can find all the information on how to contact us at lowerstreet.co. We also have a bunch of case studies and some examples of the things that we've been working on to give you a sense of what that looks like. So yeah, if you want help with your brand podcast, go to lowerstreet.co. And now back to what you're watching. Thanks.
Moving on to the next one. So transcription and social content. I did mention that Descript does that, but we don't use it for more than that. When it comes to that part, we are moving on to Swell AI, which again, some of you might know. Shout out Cody. We do upload the video into Swell. It's pretty fast. And basically the tool spits out everything that you need for anything. And you can tweak it as well with like prompt and stuff. But we get the clips, we get the social copy for anything. So like Twitter threads, LinkedIn posts, captions, quotes, timestamps. I really like the timestamps. That's probably one of the main things that I use it for, because I don't want to spend another hour listening to the whole thing or reading the transcript to find the best name for each of the segments based on each of the questions we ask. So we take it from Swell, and all the show notes from the podcast, and we've done that since the beginning. Have timestamps or chapters, put that in the show notes, and we also upload it on YouTube. That means those chapters are created on the video. You can like jump start into whatever topic you're interested in. And because we do tend to talk about a lot of topics in each of the episodes, because depending on the person we have on, a marketer, a founder, or whatnot, they would cover a lot of ground. We talk about different channels, different tactics, challenges, and you might not be interested in everything. So it's a very good way to still get listeners that might not want to listen to the whole thing or kind of guess where things are. That's very, very useful. I think probably my favorite part of the kind of the AI part of the podcast. And we do use it for clips as well. That, like most platform, we tried others like Opus Clips, for example, and they are great in terms of saving time. I do think that's probably where most of the progress in AI will come, in finding those moments that are going to be the most engaging or that are going to work the most for, let's say, TikTok or YouTube Shorts. Some of them are good, but sometimes they tend to be too long, or they're not necessarily like the best point. And what it doesn't do is that also doesn't edit the clip. So maybe the hook is in the front, or like there's some like edit going on. I think it's probably the thing that I would like to see, at least, where clips are more edited to be more engaging on social platforms. But we still use it. We still use those clips and distribute them on social. So that's probably like the most AI focused part of the workflow for our podcast. Definitely very, very useful in terms of writing the content and the show notes and the timestamp. Then we get to the distribution. I'm looking at the time. A few more minutes. There you go. Yeah. We use repurpose.io. It's a tool that allows you to connect all your social platform into the tool. And whatever you post in your main channel will be reposted everywhere. So the clips that I mentioned that we get AI generated from the steps before, we post them on TikTok, and they go on YouTube Short, X, LinkedIn, Pinterest, whatever you decide, they all go there. This is what it looks like. So we've got some flows between TikTok and YouTube, Twitter X, and Instagram Reels. That's pretty cool because it's really hands off. Don't have to spend too much time thinking about it. Just have to post it once, and it goes everywhere. And then another tool that we use more from the growth side of things, but it's part of the distribution, I guess. We used Wallaxy for a while. Pretty good tool, especially if you already have an audience on LinkedIn. It will take care of your LinkedIn auto DMs, which are not in-mail. They are direct message to the people who are already first connected to you. So we use that for a while. People don't like to be sold to, but if you say that you just launched a podcast and they already know you or seen your name because they're connected to you, they're a lot more likely to give it a listen or give it a follow. So if you can afford it, and if you have an audience, I would definitely kickstart some of the distribution and the awareness of the podcast through a tool like that. Definitely helped us for the last few months. All right, where are we? Measurement analytics, the last bit, which is not the most important part in my view. We recently moved to Spotify for podcasters, which is fine, which is great, mostly because it takes care of the video side of things. So we, like I said, we upload the video. Some people do watch it on Spotify. So that was useful for us. And then we use the usual Apple Podcast, the Spotify also analytics, the YouTube analytics, and we look at the charts on chart tables. But the thing about podcast is you have to go in the long run, for the long run. So don't look at your statistics every day. Don't be like me. It's not going to help you definitely go faster. The most important part is the consistency and focusing on the content. All right. A little plug, but also a resource for some of the things that I talk about here. We talked about in one of our recent episodes in the pod, actually. So it's kind of meta, the one that you see at the bottom. And if you had any value from me in this session, make sure you follow and subscribe to the pod. I put nice QR code for you to take your phone out and go do that. But yeah, that's me. I think we're going to move on to Q&As now, but yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Johan. A lot of very interesting points in there. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's taken a lot of notes on how to, essentially use AI to produce your podcast, which is really cool. So we've got a few questions from the audience. Right, so first one from Andrew is asking, how do you find out about / test new AI products and integrate them into your workflow? What's your source of information for all things AI?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I wasn't on Twitter X for a long time. And actually early 2023, a few months before starting the podcast, I started to be more active on Twitter. And I find that if you talk about that stuff, you talk about podcasting on there, you will get quite a lot of people being receptive and replying to your questions, or so I met quite a few people that are working in that space, that are working on different kind of AI tools for podcasting and other things like YouTube and things like that. One that I didn't mention that because we're not using it as of yet, but all the dubbing, AI dubbing in different languages and stuff. I met a few people doing that as well on Twitter X. So that is maybe also another frontier to get to, listening to me in 25 different languages. But yeah, so yeah, that's where I get most of my information and see what's happening. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. And now a bit earlier, sorry, I didn't actually note down the name of the person who's been asking this good question, but they were asking, should we be disclosing our usage of AI tools to our clients? So in that case, to the producer, but I guess to our audience as well, it applies. Is there a threshold of use at which we should disclose, i.e. using an AI replication of a voice for an entire episode versus just to fix one or two words here and there? What's your take on it?
I think so. I think it depends. For us, we're totally open about it because we are doing it for ourselves, and our audience is, I guess, interested in that side of things in AI. And now you can help marketers, I guess, to do their job as well. So I guess that's fine for that. If you're actually producing for other people, I'll probably be a bit mindful as to how much you do in terms of using AI. I think if you use it for like corrections and copy and timestamp, like I mentioned, I think it's fine. Because them knowing that you're using that is not going to be the thing that are going to make them start the podcast or not. Like, it's not because they can, they know they can, spit out some copy to speed up that process. I think the blocker is elsewhere for them. It's like, how do I get the content? Like, they need more heavy lifting across the board. So I wouldn't be too shy sharing some of it. But if you're producing the whole thing with AI and like and the content starts to become quite like vanilla as a result, then maybe that's the limit I wouldn't go to.
Got it. Thank you very much. That's very insightful. Now, Bonnie was asking, have you tried using AI to help you determine who your audience could be and how best to reach them?
So the short answer is no. We haven't used AI for that. For anything to do with the content planning and kind of the topics, I think one of the things that is important to Jake and I is to keep the podcast very human, like very fresh in a good and a bad way as well. Like sometimes we go on tangents and we have like, a lot of banter, and it feels quite natural. Like we try as much as we can not to be rigid in the way we produce the podcast. So as a result, we wouldn't even, I think, want to go AI for that reason, to keep it natural.
Got it. And actually, that was one of my questions. I was wondering, how do you strike this balance of, between human created content and AI to maintain something that's authentic and engaging? Yeah. Where do you think the line is when it comes to over automatization?
Yeah, so for me, the line is in the little details. So when I mention the usage of Swell, for example, for all the copy that comes out of from the podcast, the only thing I do is I go through it, read it, like little snippets of content, and I rewrite them ever so slightly in my tone. So that's a change of a word or two, a little joke here and there, something that will make people connect with me and Jake, as opposed to like a sentence that maybe is too generic. Because AI tends to do that right now. Like there's a lot of like generic sentences that like they sound good because the way it's writing the sentences, like the most logic word after the next most logic word to make a sentence. So I just go over that and I make it more natural, like in my tone. So that's the I guess the line.
All right. Now a question for trend and forecast. So it's a new year. AI is literally everywhere around us. What's your take? What do you think the trends and innovation are going to bring us new this year when it comes to AI?
Yeah, I think what I mentioned earlier, which I want to see, I think it's also going to be one of the things that we see is more um, a more advanced usage of AI to manipulate the content, not just with words, but also with video to make it more engaging, and not just take a portion because like a 2 minute segment because there is like a topic, but it's not very well edited in like in a social sense. I think there is already the capability there for AI to go in 2024 to go and recognize what's working on an Instagram Reels or a TikTok and give the little to it. You know what I mean? Like to add something to it. So it's like, you've seen those like trailer type. So maybe not to go that far as a trailer, but at least changing the orders of like the little bits here and there within that 2 minutes clip to make it a bit more engaging. So then the distribution makes even more sense to do. Right now, a lot of people who do distribution with their podcast, including us, is like you post it on TikTok and you get 200 views, no one cares because it's not edited for it. So most people that want to do that very well, they have to use an external agency, an actual editor to like go and touch the video for a few hours to make it fit for the channel. I think AI will be able to do that. That's my one thing. The other thing I think would be in the usage of AI to go and look at a corpus of content that could be like 100, 200 episode and make usage of that across all data set that is not just one episode. And I think there's a lot that could be done there as well in like multi-editing across like a ton of footage. And I haven't seen tools doing that yet, at least doing it well. But yeah, those will be the two things.
It sounds like a brilliant business idea for anyone in the...
Yeah, if you're listening and you're working on this, can be a power user. No.
Well, actually, so speaking of content analysis, someone in the chat is asking, have you ever used AI to help you find interesting angles for your podcast? I'm assuming to find angles for your upcoming episodes, for instance.
Not yet, but that's something that I would like to do. Again, by questioning an AI across like multiple episodes, maybe like find recurring themes on episodes that are in the top 5, maybe like your best episodes. You could probably use AI for that. We're not doing that at the moment. Right now, it's really, like I said, is who I know that I know is good and like maybe has a good story. That's how we make the content. Like we reach out to these people. And a little bit of looking at what's happening in the world of marketing. For those things, I don't really need AI for that. Like it's already out there. Like a couple of clicks and you can see like what is the topic of the moment. Like even looking at a few hashtags on TikTok, you'll see like what are the trendy whatever you use, Twitter, X, TikTok. So we're not using AI for that yet, but maybe in the future.
That's human. That's still very relevant. That's good. Now, an anonymous participant is actually asking a controversial question. They're asking, with all the adjustments you need to make so that the question and writing sounds more like you, is there even a point where it's actually not saving you time at all?
Yeah, no, definitely. There's definitely a point because, like I said, after a few days of recording a podcast, I have no idea what we talked about. Like I forgot everything. It was like a nice chat for an hour and I need something to remind me. Those were the topics. This is the angle. This is what you talked about, in which way, like, you agreed, you disagreed, like all that type of thing is like saving me so much time for me. Like I would never do that by myself. Like if we didn't have that, I would write something like 2 sentences at the beginning. We had so and so on a podcast, and that person is, whatever, like a co-founder of this company, or like a head of growth somewhere. And that would be it, because I'll be like, I don't remember what we talked about. I'm not gonna make it justice unless I spend a lot of time listening to it, making notes, etc. So I would argue that they're still very useful. Like, very useful.
And I probably would add as well, having all those tools during an interview, it really helps you be more engaged and more present as well in your conversation. Definitely more lively, because you don't have to worry about, such things such as taking notes and so that's really helpful.
The worst thing in an interview podcast is not listening to what's going on the other side. Doing active listening is what makes the discussion interesting. If you have to think, I need to remember this, or I need to make notes, or like that would be awful. So yeah.
All of the experts in our panel for the art of the interview definitely agreed with that point. Active listening is key. Now we've got 1 minute left, Johan. Do you have any closing remarks? Anything else you want to add on the topic of AI for podcasting?
No, I think we covered everything. It's the first time I'm doing this. I'm talking about the behind the curtains of what we've done so far in this podcast. So no, I was just going to say thank you very much for having me. Thank you for all the questions. Yeah, I was like, there you go. Thank you. And yeah, no, that's been great. That's been great. Really enjoyed it.
Don't forget, if you need help with your brand's podcast, we'd love to have a chat. You can find us at lowerstreet.co. If you'd like more content like this, or to find out information on podcasting events we have coming up in the near future, head to brandpodcastsummit.com.